Rob Dawson here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Mintz.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Children.
DJ Khaled, you not a big DJ Khaled guy?
Hands thrown up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastner.
You're going to beat people, straight up.
You know the deal. Drink responsibly tonight. I'll be drinking with you.
Jarrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
Hello and welcome in to another edition of Field of 68 After Dark. It is Tuesday, November 28th. I'm your host, John Martin, tonight, joined by two gentlemen. Longtime basketball coach, former Memphis coach, Georgia Tech coach Josh Pastner is here tonight. John Henson, North Carolina Tar Heel, 9-year NBA veteran. Try to get the 10. Couldn't get the 10, maybe, right? Is there a chance? Maybe the COVID year or something?
Here, I got full health care. Unfortunately, my kids don't. It was a sad day when the BPA retirement papers came. I knew it was over.
But you're here now. You're on the Field of 68 team. So I don't know if Jeff Goodman offers pensions or not, but maybe we can negotiate that.
I'm hoping I get some tenure.
We got a lot,
man.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you're on the right track, man. We got a lot to get to on the show. Obviously, after this show is over, we're going to be on Stadium doing last call where we answer all your burning questions for another half an hour here. So saddle up, baby. Josh, get your I don't know what you're on over there. You got some hot tea, some lemonade. What are we drinking tonight? What's the beverage of choice?
Well, I actually ate about 10 chicken nuggets before I got on here just to keep my energy going. I've been really doing well with eating well and doing right, but this show has hurt me on my diet. I've been trying to do well, so at 10:30 at night, I'm eating 10 chicken nuggets from my kids. They have these chicken nuggets things, so I just got 10 of them just to get me up and maybe re-energize me.
Yeah, these chicken nugget things, man, they're all the rage. They're all the rage now in 2023.
The dinosaur,
we got a lot to get to.
I had the dinosaur ones. They were good.
There you have it. There's a dinner of champions. Okay, look, let's get this thing underway. A great win tonight. I think the win of college basketball tonight from the Kentucky Wildcats, number 12 in the country, hosting number 8 Miami, previously undefeated. And after what was an 18-2 run by the Hurricanes to get back in it there in the first half, it was all Kentucky the rest of the way, led by freshman guard Reed Sheppard. Kentucky gets the win 95-73. Josh, going to start with you. In an era where it is all about getting as old as you possibly can and picking off in the transfer portal, John Calipari has sort of pushed back against that. And he's brought in freshman guards. He brought in DJ Wagner. He brought in Reed Sheppard. And it was Reed Sheppard tonight. He was really the difference. What do you make of just energy, and is it paying off for John Calipari and these Wildcats?
Yeah, well, first of all, John, I mean, look, Kentucky was outstanding tonight. I mean, they were awesome, outstanding, high level. They didn't even have Aaron Bradshaw. I know a lot of people. What's interesting is a lot of people have said, well, when Aaron Bradshaw comes back, and for people who haven't watched Aaron Bradshaw, he's a current freshman, great player in high school, and he, 7 feet, 7'1" inches, can really play. They'll say even how much better they'll be, which is truthful. However, these last two games, I think they played Marshall, a few days ago, and they had like 118 points. Tonight they're 95. They're really playing at a high clip right now. So not that when Bradshaw comes back, how good an extra front court player like him, they'll make him that much better. However, you could also say right now they're playing at a high level, and sometimes, do you even want to mess with the mix right now? Because the mix is really, they're as good as anyone, in the country right now, the way they're playing. And look, Wagner only played 10 minutes this evening. And He went out with an injury or, something maybe with his back or something. So, but as you mentioned, Sheppard was outstanding. But, you talked about the freshmen. Let me say this: Trey Mitchell I know he's been to 3 or 4 schools, and he's an older guy, and he was a transfer portal that Kentucky got late after Bob Huggins was left after with the issue at West Virginia. He became available really late. He has been big for Kentucky. Look, they would have lost to St. Joe's, whatever that was, a week and a half or so ago. Trey Mitchell hit huge threes from the top of the key in key times. And tonight, as great as Shepherd was, Mitchell's got 14 points. He's got 7 assists. He's got 5 rebounds. He was efficient, 2 blocks. He's just he can make them go offensively because you can play through Trey Mitchell. And he's almost like a point guard in a sense of the way that he plays. So you got to credit, obviously, Coach Calipari, Kentucky, but as good as their young guys are, you can't forget a guy like Trey Mitchell.
John, the sample size is getting bigger here with Kentucky. They were up at half on Kansas in the Champions Classic. They now absolutely dominated Miami as part of this SEC Challenge. It's been a while since this team has made a Final Four, probably too long for that fan base. Do you see a team, given what we've seen so far, that does indeed have that ceiling?
Yeah, they do. I mean, anytime you can get 37 points off the bench, more specifically with Shepherd and Denningham coming in and scoring 30 off the bench, you're going to have some success. I think tonight also was more an indictment on Miami. I watched the game. I didn't know if they realized that they were at Rupp Arena playing Kentucky prime time on a Tuesday night. I didn't see the sense of urgency from them. Omer and Poplar came in the game and they started playing well, but once Omer goes out of the game, either with foul trouble or he has a rest, it's kind of like they fall off the cliff. Like there's not really much behind him, as you saw tonight, even with Matthew Cleveland and Nigel Pack. If Miami doesn't get everything from their starting 5, there's not much to really go off of. And Kentucky just kept pouring it on. They didn't stop. Shepherd comes in. Dillingham comes in at the end when the game was over. He puts it away even more. Wagner goes out. Mitchell comes. He's making some big shots, big plays. Edwards looked good tonight. So they kind of hit a buzz all tonight against Kentucky, but I think Miami needed to show a little more sense of urgency. This is not your run-of-the-mill Kentucky team maybe they've seen the last couple of years. Miami made the Final Four last year, so maybe they're feeling themselves a little bit. But I think Kentucky gave them all they wanted, and they had to put a little respect on Kentucky's name, because I don't think Miami came in and was respectful of what they could possibly be as a team, and they found out tonight. So they're probably flying home a little down. And I'm a little down on Miami too. It's one of my favorite ACC teams, and Kentucky kind of throttled them, and they're not a young team either. So it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back.
Well, John,
let
me just say this, and John, you're absolutely right. The other thing with Kentucky is 26 assists on 37 made field goals. I mean, the ball was just moving. I mean, when you have great rhythm, energy, and just flow with the ball, and it's like a hot potato, man. When that thing hits you, it keeps moving. I mean, the way they were sharing, of course, they're making shots. They shoot almost 60% from the field and about 42 or 43 from 3. That makes a huge difference. Whereas Miami, on the other hand, 8 assists on 26 made field goals. Obviously, part of that, they weren't making shots. They're shooting in the 20% range of threes. And Kentucky did a good job of saying, hey, you got to beat us with 2s today. I mean, they really – Miami shot a lot of contested shots. I mean, a lot of contested shots. Kentucky guarded the three-point line well. And, Miami's a team that can beat you off the bounce one-on-one. But when their shots aren't falling and you can really – and they're not beating you with a bunch of 2s, and then you're not getting stops on the other end. But the way Kentucky moved the ball tonight, and I credit that a lot with the way they played through Trey Mitchell. I mean, Trey was really good this evening, and that he's been big for him. And again, as great as their young guys are, as we talked about Shepherd and the other guys, Mitchell, who's an older guy, he does a lot for him that sometimes doesn't even show up in the box score as well.
Yeah, there are Go ahead, John.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, in terms of, I was going to go back to you, Josh, because, DJ is a sort of, I mean, obviously he's the most high profile freshman that they've brought in, the son of former NBA player DeJuan Wagner. And, you see against maybe, you know, the St. Joe's, Marshalls of the world, like he really can get off against, you know, Kansas, Miami. He has sort of struggled a little bit in terms of, you know, I just recall, you know, your time with Joe Jackson, for example, when you bring in a freshman and you sort of give him the reins. What's it like sort of going through, you know, the step up in competition, the step down in competition, and just sort of how you manage, you know, a young guard's load in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, it's Wagner's an elite level talent, but there's a lot of pressure on him. There's no denying that. Obviously, his dad was a great player, played in the NBA. You know, his grandfather was a great player at Louisville and played in the pros. What I would tell you though is, you know, is you're going to have to. There's a growing pains. There's a learning curve for a freshman. It's just it just is what it is when you're making that transition from high school to college. It's not easy, and you know, and you look at, you know, Wagner has not shot the ball well. If you look at his overall stats this year, that's the one thing he hasn't been great from the perimeter shooting. Whereas a guy like Reed Shepherd has shot the daylights out of it, and especially for tonight. And so, shooting is so critical when you're a guard, because in college, and again, I can't speak on the NBA. I can only speak on just as a basketball guy or watching it from afar. I mean, John would know this better than anybody, but you know, when you're in college and the way defenses are played, the way help side can have with the defensive 3 seconds, and you know, listen, you play a team and maybe you're playing a team with one pro on the floor, maybe, and that's just a maybe once every blue moon. That's how hard it is to play in the NBA. So a lot of times, you know, we're in the NBA, there's so much spacing. You have guys in the corner, you got the defensive 3 seconds. Maybe a guy who's not an elite shooter can there's more room to do things. It's not like that in college, and you can really load up to the ball and make it tough if you're not making shots. And John Henson, do you agree with me on that? I mean, and because obviously you played at the highest level, the difference for guards, especially for guards between the NBA and college, no matter how hyped you were coming in, you know, if you struggle shooting, I think college can make it difficult for you.
Yeah, and then, you know, there's such emphasis on shooting now, more so than any time ever in this game. So naturally, guys are going to try to shoot a little more than maybe back in the day. If you weren't a good shooter, you try to get to the rack and create in college. And then, you know, the NBA, obviously it's more space and you got more talented players, and you know, there's 2 or 3 guys that kind of do what they do, and everybody fills in their roles. So, you know, with Wagner, he's going to have to figure out how to get that ball to go in. He's got good form. He can shoot the ball. Just a confidence thing. I saw that it said Reed Shepherd had went to the gym with his parents and they rebounded for him the night before the game or a couple nights before the game, and it looks like it translated. So maybe he needs to take a page out of Reed's book, go shoot with him a little bit, and because I think also it's a confidence thing. The more you shoot, the more you get into the gym. The best shooters I've ever seen were the hardest workers. I don't think it's any other way around it. And so, you know, I think Wagner will figure it out. And when he does, with Bradshaw coming back, with what they have now, Kentucky could be there right there at the end, as long as they don't kind of hit that wall, you know, with the young guys. You know, obviously Mitchell's been playing a while, so he'll be fine. But, you know, if they can keep improving and not hit a wall, I see Kentucky being a team at the end that can, you know, make some noise for sure.
Yeah, well, now we're coming to break, but and I agree, John Henson, that Wagner, I mean, he's going to be, the more he plays, the more he feels comfortable in college, the better he's going to continue to be. I think there's so much potential and upside with Kentucky because, like I said, right now their mix is pretty darn good, and you haven't even had Bradshaw. Now, when Bradshaw comes back, help you, hurt you. I mean, of course, his talent is undeniable, but, you know, sometimes chemistry, so that's going to be and where Coach Calipari is a master at that stuff, he'll figure it out. But that's the deal on that, is you'll have to figure, because that takes minutes away from guys, because Bradshaw is a guy that can play 25, 30 minutes a game. He's a pro prospect. So that would be interesting to figure that out.
Josh, I thought you were a point guard, man. I thought you facilitated.
Poor John Calipari's got a lottery pick coming back, and we're like, oh, what's he going to do? Jesus.
You gotta
love it. You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
That's right. That's right. Hey, Josh, you're supposed to be a point guard, man. You're supposed to, you know, facilitate here a little bit, man. You're taking all the shots from me. You're taking all the shots from me here on the show.
I love
far.
you, John. You
That's
know,
fine.
John Mark. You know, I love you.
No, it's great to work with you, man. Life comes full circle. It's honestly incredible. We got a lot more to get to. Chris Beard's undefeated at Ole Miss. Is this going to be a job for him at Oxford? Talk about that later. You're watching the Field of 68 After Dark. Back after this.
Are you a college basketball junkie? Are you the kind of fan that gets frustrated that this beautiful sport has such a lack of national coverage outside of the month of March? Well, let me tell you about the Field of 68, an all-encompassing digital network of podcasts, live streams, and newsletters that cover the sport at every level on every platform. From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors, the only way to keep up with college basketball is through the Field of 68.
In the first Field of 68 tip-off, 3 of the preeminent mid-major programs in the country, 3 of the best coaches. November 30th, Liberty versus FAU. December 1st, Liberty versus Charleston. December 2nd, Charleston versus FAU.
3 up-and-coming programs come together in a very, very creative entity.
There's a reason we're called the Field of 68, right? We want to cover all of college basketball.
We are calling it the Field of 68 tip-off.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. We're on social media on X. We're on YouTube. After this show wraps up in about 45 minutes, we're going to be on Stadium, and we're going to be answering all of your burning questions on Last Call. So if you want to ask Josh Pastner a question, you want to ask John Henson a question, certainly you can do that. Get that in the YouTube chat, and we'll get to those. I mean, I assume, Josh, you were sort of flirting like, oh, you may need to get to bed. I assume you're going to be around for Last Call. I don't want to advertise that you're going to be answering questions if you got to get to sleep, man.
I'll be there. It's past my bedtime, but I'll be there.
All right, so get those in the YouTube chat. All right, few results we need to discuss here. As Damon Stoudemire, first-year head coach there at Georgia Tech, Mighty Mouse knocks off top 25 Mississippi State. Short stay for them in the top 25. It feels like with the win by Georgia Tech. Final 67-59. Josh, obviously you were just at Georgia Tech before you decided to join us here at Field of 68. So you know sort of the challenges, you know sort of some of the obstacles. Just knowing Damon, having worked with him in the past, how big of a win is this for him, and what kind of a statement is it for him at Georgia Tech to get this done?
Well, look, you got to give Damon, their staff, and the team a lot of credit because they had a tough game last week for Cincinnati at Cincinnati. They obviously didn't play well, and for them to bounce back. I mean, anybody that knows in sports, when you have a tough loss and just the ball's not bouncing your way, to be able to bounce back about a week later and then beat a really good Mississippi State team, that's a big win. It's a big win for Damon. Big win for the program. There's no denying that. And so there's a lot of credit to be able to that I believe in coaching and even in sports. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to bounce back after a tough loss, after a hard stretch. And that's a real credit to coaches who are able to get their guys back on that. So yes, Mississippi State, won't be in the top 25 long, obviously, after the loss, but credit to a really good win for Georgia Tech against a very good Mississippi State team coached by Chris Jans, who watching some of the game that, I thought Georgia Tech was able to penetrate against Mississippi State. Mississippi State defensively obviously is known, especially for Chris Jans, about how good half-court defensively. I thought Georgia Tech got some great looks. And Miles Kelly had some big shots. Miles Kelly's a really good player, and he was there with me for a couple years, and his talent is outstanding, and you can just see it. Him making some big shots, and in times when Mississippi State was making a run as well too. Funny thing, John, and you know this, Mississippi State has DJ Jeffries on their team. I was recruiting DJ Jeffries back when I was a head coach at Memphis. That's how long he's been in college, and with the the COVID year and everything else. I mean, you know that. I mean, because he was an Olive Branch, Mississippi kid,
Yep.
and so I remember recruiting the heck out of him when I was over at Memphis. It just shows you, the longevity now with additional years of stuff. So seeing DJ Jeffries there, but really good win for Damon, really good win for Georgia Tech. A lot of credit to be able to bounce back after a tough loss on that to get a big time win against a really good program.
Yeah, you threw Penny the lob on DJ. So thanks for that, for sure. Yeah. Go ahead, John. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 16-5 advantage in points off turnovers, that's the story of the game. They won by 12 points, or they won by 8, it looks like they won by 8. So, yeah, that might have been the story of the game. And I watched the second half start. Mississippi State, which is not a historically good three-point shooting team, shoots, I think the first 9 shots were threes. It's almost like they abandoned the game plan when things got real, which is a lesson they'll learn. James, after the game, said himself, we learned a valuable lesson. I hope we can stay away from learning valuable lessons, because I think that's what they did. They kind of abandoned the game plan and, thought they could do it on their own. And this was probably a good loss for them to learn learn some lessons. Georgia Tech was big and athletic. Jans also said, hey, we played teams was as big but not as athletic. So I think it was an adjustment. We were kind of low on Georgia Tech, I guess, coming the last 2 losses, but, they look good. And shout out to the ACC getting a win from a top 25 team in this challenge. So, hopefully keep it going, because we're down ACC right now. So hopefully they can show some fight in this battle right now.
And I thought Georgia Tech had total control of the entire game, even when Mississippi State made a little bit of run. As I mentioned, Miles Kelly would hit a big shot. Georgia Tech really controlled the game. And I thought defensively, they did a great job at stunting all over the floor against Mississippi State defensively. When I say stunning, just having, multiple guys kind of digging at the ball, with their body and their hands, and really, I thought affected Mississippi State just on the way they played defense.
Yeah, moving around the ACC SEC challenge, you did get another one. You did get Syracuse beating LSU, beating the brakes off of them, 80-57 tonight against LSU. Judah Mintz goes off for 33. It kind of felt like, John, that Syracuse had to have one like this. I mean, when they've sort of stepped up in competition, I don't really know if LSU is a quote-unquote competition given what they've been doing, but it really felt like they had to have one like this, didn't it?
Yes, and I, watching Syracuse, you can see it there. Like, you can see the talent, you can see the potential for them to be a decent team. And tonight, it kind of all came together. Mind you, against an LSU team that we aren't very high on. But I said even before this, when I think they're out in Maui, I like Judah Mintz to be the leading scorer in the ACC by the end of the year. I think he's that good. They're going to need him to be that good. And, tonight was a night that they're 5-2. They just beat a decent LSU team. I think we can't be mad at where they're at, considering the circumstances, new coach, new system, right? They're playing a little man. They're mixing the zone, but they're playing a little man. They're playing a little faster. So it's going to be interesting to see the kind of the growth of that program under someone, who, taking control after what Jim Boeheim's been there for 30 years. So it's going to be fun to see.
Yeah,
Coach,
and
you know exactly what that's like, right? I mean, I was going to say, if people don't know, right? I mean, you were 24 years old when you got the job at Memphis after John Calipari took the job at Kentucky. What? By the way, we were trying to figure this out today. Were you the 8th or 9th guy that Memphis called?
Maybe even 12th or 13th or 14th. As you know, I always said it. I mean, I was at the right place, the right time. There was about 1.6 million coaches of all levels, from junior high to pro, that were more deserving of the head Memphis job. But nobody wanted to follow Calipari, and they still had to run a program. So I just happened to be the last man hanging around, and I was fortunate that R.C. Johnson gave me an opportunity on that. But I get it. When you're following a legend like that, kind of like what Coach Autry's doing with Coach Boeheim. Look, he can't be Coach Boeheim. He's got to be himself. And this is a massive win for him in his first year at Syracuse. I mean, look, they struggled scoring in the Maui Invitational that was obviously played in Honolulu this year through the fires in Maui. But they struggled really scoring until they played against Chaminade. and they were able to pick up that win. But a couple things. LSU, 19 turnovers tonight. Hard to win a game against a quality opponent when you're turning it over like that. That's just a lot. It's too many. And to Syracuse's credit, they shot the daylights out of it. And Judah Mintz, who I think could be the leading scorer, as mentioned in the entire ACC, I think the key for Syracuse is going to be they're going to need Starling, J.J. Starling, who's a transfer from Notre Dame, to really be at a high level for him this year. He's got to be better just shooting the ball. He's got to be better offensively for them to give him another, tandem guard back there where not everything's focused on Judah Mintz. But Bell was 6 for 10 from three. They shot over 50% from 3-point range. Big win for Coach Autry. And again, it's a signature win for him to be able to get that win, considering, you're replacing a guy because when you move over 6 inches, John, you're making suggestions all the time as an assistant. But when you move over 6 inches to that head chair, man, the decision-making, everything falls on you. And it is a big deal. Those 6 inches matter. I mean, you're thinking about that. It's a lot. And so to Coach Autry's credit, massive win for them tonight.
It's a well compensated 6 inches, however. You know what I'm saying?
You're right on that. It's an upgrade in pay, but you're right. The pay is incredible. To be a basketball coach, it's a blessing. To be a head coach and to get the pay, it's incredible. But there's a lot of internal pressure. There's a lot of, look, when you're standing on that sidelines, it can be lonely at times when things aren't going well.
I commend all coaches. People ask me, "Hey man, you want to coach?" I'm like, "Hell no!" Right?
Yeah.
Like that. Because you have to be. It's a gift, man. I think it's a gift. Just like someone's good at basketball, it's just like someone's good at other things. I think coaching is a gift. It's a God-given ability to be able to, manage and, help young men be successful on the court and off the court. So, I respect all coaches. Love all coaches. Count me out.
That's good to know. You won't be taking any of our jobs, John. That's a good thing. So,
hey, look, I'll come on. Administrative assistant. If one of my guys gets a job, Harrison Barnes is my guy. I know he's going to be in the mix with some stuff, but like, to be the head guy, like you say, Coach, it's a different ballgame because you know what? When things are going well, you don't get the credit. When things aren't, you get the credit.
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's life,
Josh. It's like I tell my wife, every inch matters. You know what I mean?
I'll leave that to you, but I'll stick on the basketball side. And
well, I was just saying, it may not be 6, but it every inch matters. But every inch
matter. I mean, 6 more inches, and you get, you're the guy. 6 more. That's it. That's all it takes.
Absolutely. Okay, really quickly here. Chris Beard has not lost a game yet at Ole Miss. NC State not ranked, but still, it's an ACC SEC challenge game, and Ole Miss handled them. Musa Cisse, I believe, did suit up and play in this one and held NC State to 52 points at it. Josh, Chris Beard taking this job. You've played Ole Miss in series in years past. It's a hard job. Is this potentially going to be a quick stop for him in Oxford based on what you've seen from them so far?
Well, I don't know if it's going to be a quick stop. How many more places can you go? I mean, in this day and age, I don't know if it matters being at a blue blood so-called. I don't think it matters anymore just because everything's based on NIL or the paid for play scenarios. And so it really comes down to how much NIL you have. You don't have to be at a blue blood to be able to do that. So I don't know if this is a quick stop for Coach Beard. I think this could be a long-term place for him. He's obviously an elite coach at what he's done. Everywhere he's been, he's won. Their teams compete. They play hard. They defend. They win 50-50 balls. They dive on the floor. And he's got it going. And look, and the guy who he replaced, want to give a shout out to and credit to, because a lot of those guys, there are some really good players left there as well too, and Kermit Davis and. Who is an excellent coach as well too. But Chris Beard's one of the best in the game, and I don't see him making this a short-term stop. I look at it to be a long-term for him, and he can win big there at Ole Miss. It just increases how great the SEC is going to be, in that conference for the long term.
By the way,
Yeah.
Musa Cisse did not. He just got cleared. He didn't play tonight, but
he didn't play.
He just
exactly.
got cleared.
Yeah.
Right.
There's some money down there at Ole Miss too. I mean, there's resources down there in Ole Miss. I actually, one of my friends went there. Obviously, the football program is the football program, but it's not a bad little sneaky spot to kind of make some noise in. And then as far as long term, I agree with Coach Pastner. I think this could be a spot where he could be for a while until maybe something big opens up. But I don't know, kind of fits him a little bit, man. Kind of off the radar, but still in the mix as far as being an SEC. The results show he does what he does, man. He's a great coach. Whatever he has, he's going to win with. So shout out to him getting back on track and getting this Ole Miss team to people to talk about this Ole Miss team, which we haven't talked about since Marshall Henderson. I don't even remember what that was, but yeah.
Well, and
it's
real
like
quick,
2009. Yeah.
Real quick, the thing about the teams we discussed today: Miami lost, Mississippi State lost, LSU lost, NC State lost. If you look at one of the common denominators between those 4 teams, poor 3-point shooting. North Carolina State tonight, 12% from 3. They end up having 13 turnovers. The lack of shooting makes a big difference. Shooting's everything. If you're making shots, as simple as that sounds, that's a big deal.
No, it absolutely is. And so far, so good for Chris Beard in Oxford, no question about it. Do John Henson Steelers have their hands full with the Volunteers? We'll get his thoughts on that matchup and more when we get back. You're watching the Field of 68 After Dark. Stick around.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners, and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today.
And welcome back to Field of 68 After Dark. We are going through all of the juicy matchups that have taken place already tonight and that are coming up this week. I'm John Martin here with Josh Pastner, former Memphis and Georgia Tech coach, here with John Henson, North Carolina Tar Heel, former NBA player. As we speak, Clemson and Alabama, just around 5 minutes left in that one on ESPN. Clemson up about 2 possessions here, 70-64. So we will certainly keep an eye on that one when it does go final. If you got some questions that you want either of these gentlemen to answer, you know where to put them. The YouTube chat. After this show ends in about 30 minutes or so, we're going to head over to Stadium for last call, and we're going to get to those questions. So if you have not gotten those in, make sure you get those in. All right, John, let's start with you. Certainly, to me, one of the more intriguing games of this entire event, Tennessee, North Carolina. Tennessee really needs a win. They've competed, and they've certainly looked like a heavyweight, but they have not been able to come out on the right side of things in these matchups. How do you assess how these two, it feels like a little bit of a clash. How do you think North Carolina can handle Tennessee's physicality? How do you see this one shaking out?
We're not talking a lot about, Cormac Ryan, but he might not play tomorrow. And he brings kind of a little edge to Carolina. Kind of see him get into the game, get into his teammates, a little bit of energy. He shoots the ball really well. So if he doesn't play, I think that affects the game more than people are going to talk about. But if he does, man, this is just going to be a battle, man. You got Armando down there. We have smaller guards. So Tennessee we might have trouble in that department defending their size on the perimeter. But I think this is a big game for both programs. Tennessee needs to finally knock off someone that's higher ranked, finally finish the game. And North Carolina still is trying to prove that we are still the Tar Heels of old, a top tier team, a blue blood program. So I'm excited about this game tomorrow. Is it at Tennessee? Or is it at Tennessee? Is it at, let's see here. Oh, it's in Chapel Hill. Okay. I love that for us. Hopefully the Tar Heels can finish off a top 10 team and make some noise. But either way, Tennessee's 4-3 and North Carolina's 5-2. I think this is kind of an early season must win for resume building purposes on both programs.
Yeah. Agree totally. Josh, it was a little different for you sort of when you compare your stops, right? At Memphis, at Georgia Tech, it was definitely a lot more important for you at Memphis to have that solid out-of-conference schedule so that you wouldn't get slotted as a 6 seed if you won 31 games, which you did anyway. But if you're Rick Mars in the situation, is there a level of frustration given that you're playing such a strong schedule and your record's going to be what it is? It may be 4-3, it may be 4-4, yet you're playing how do you sort of square that as a coach, right? You're playing and you're competing and you're right there, maybe a possession, away, but your record is what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a big game for Tennessee, and I'm really high on Tennessee. In fact, when I was on doing ESPN last week during the Maui, I kept saying I think Tennessee's going to win the event. I was really, really high on Tennessee. I watched them play Wisconsin. They won at Wisconsin, which is an incredible win. Hard to win on the road anytime in sports, but to do it at Wisconsin is really hard to do. They have a stud in Dalton Connect, who was the Big Sky Player of the Year last year, and at Northern Colorado, and who's kind of not a lot of people knew about, and he could really, really play. But they came out with 2 losses. I mean, they played 2 tough teams in Maui, but those 2 losses, and so here they are. Another big game for them right here with North Carolina at Carolina. What John Henson just said is he's right. If Cormac Ryan doesn't play, that's a big loss for North Carolina. He hurt himself right late in the game versus Villanova towards the very end. Because of his shooting, it can really change things of his spacing, and he's a good defender as well too. So this is a big game for Tennessee. Look, win or lose, Tennessee's going to be fine. They're going to be a tournament team no matter what happens, even if they lose this game. But just as in terms of seeding, they have the game. They have won the game at Wisconsin. This would go a long way for them when you're dealing with seeding in March.
Yeah, bouncing around, Arkansas taking on Duke. I believe that is that in Cameron? Is that in Cameron, by the way?
That's at Arkansas. That's at Arkansas.
Oh, it's at Arkansas. Okay. John, is that going to matter? Is it going to matter where this game is played when you think about the season that Arkansas has had? I mean, they were a sort of trendy pick to win the SEC, had a disastrous battle for Atlantis, lose to Memphis, lose to North Carolina. We'll see on Tremont Mark's status. Is there any chance that Arkansas, even in Fayetteville, can keep this game close based on what you've seen from them?
I'm sure they would prefer in Fayetteville, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back. They've had a couple of tough losses to good teams, so I don't think Duke should underestimate the level of play and if they're just going to come in and just sweep them off the floor. But Duke does look like a superior team in Cameron, as we know. It's always tough. Wait, it's in Arkansas.
It's at Arkansas,
yeah.
Yeah,
it's at Arkansas. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, this gives them a little bit of a chance, then I'm going to say. So I don't think it matters per se win or loss. I think Duke is the better team. But it'll be a good test for Duke to come down to Arkansas and try to win a game in a tough environment. Arkansas is kind of the victim of that, we call it portal hunting, right? Some years are going to be good, some years are going to be bad. That's just kind of how it goes in this kind of era of basketball, especially with NIL. When you don't have a lot of continuity per se. But they're a team that's you're going to have to beat them. They're not going to lay down, and it's going to be a fun game to watch. Hopefully Duke can show a maturity level of going somewhere on the road and getting a win that isn't necessarily going to be easy to get. Arkansas is going to be juiced up for them. They are Duke. So with Filipowski and those guys and Roach, and I think they'll be fine.
Well, that's the beauty of it, right? That's the beauty of it. You may think that John may think that Arkansas can keep this game close and win it. I don't know what the point spread is going to be, right? It's not out yet, but that's the beauty of an app like Vaulted. I think Duke's going to wipe the floor with them. And so if you have an opinion that's different from your friends, go to Vaulted. It's an app that allows you to participate in daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. It's the place to store your own bold predictions forever. And by using the Vaulted Challenge feature, you can prove you're smarter than your friends. So go download the Vaulted app and give it a try for free. Vaulted is spelled VLTED, and it's the app to challenge your friends, store your predictions, and join daily cash prize pools without any entry fee. Download Vaulted today. Josh, obviously, Eric Musselman is a fantastic coach who has proven in the most meaningful parts of a college basketball season, which is March. He's got a challenge on his hands right now, though, with Duke coming in and after the week they had. So knowing sort of what goes into this, what are you telling your team right now? How are you sort of keeping them together, keeping this thing, from being unglued? Is it even something that you say? I mean, how do you handle what seems like an early crossroads for the Razorbacks?
Yeah, John, a couple things. One, this is a humongous game for Arkansas. I mean, there's enough challenges playing against Duke. Filipowski, who's a stud and a potential, ACC Player of the Year, potential type of, first team All-American when it's all said and done. But what I would tell you is Arkansas has lost 3 of their last 4. Versus Stanford, they had to go to double overtime. Stanford should have beat Arkansas. I mean, they had them beat. Yep. Credit to Arkansas, they made some shots late, and they had to beat them. And Arkansas beat Stanford in double overtime. So, you're looking there. They could have easily been on a 4-game losing streak. And after this game, they've got Furman, which is not a gimme. Furman, coached by Bob Ritchie. They're hard to play against. They are hard to play against. They are a good team. I mean, they are a good team. They beat Virginia last year in the tournament, and then they come right back after that and they play Oklahoma. So this is a humongous game for Arkansas. Now, it's hard to win at Arkansas. So for Duke's going to have their challenges because at Bud Walton Arena, that place is going to be rocking. Mm-hmm. It's going to be loud. Coach Musselman will have them jacked up, ready to go. But this game, I think, could really dictate the season on either direction for Arkansas, either in a tremendous way and it just takes them off and gets them recentered and they have a heck of a year, or it could really put them further behind the 8 ball and that's going to be interesting. And this is a humongous game tomorrow. It's a lot at stake. Even though we're happy to hit December, it's a big time game for Arkansas tomorrow. Big time.
John, no Trayvon Mark probably too though.
Right. I mean that's obviously a huge issue. 100%. When you look at Arkansas and you're trying to diagnose their struggles, what jumps out at you, John?
I think they just coming back to Trayvon. I think they put too much on him to just kind of save them and they feeling around him. As a team, they're decent from top to bottom if you look at their roster, but with no Mark, I mean, I don't know I don't think it's gonna be close tomorrow. So. As far in reference to how they're going to play, Furman coming up, Coach Pastner said, if they don't have him, it's going to get ugly down there. So hopefully he gets healthy enough. But as a team, they've got to just figure out their identity, what they want to be. Coach Musselman is really good. I'm sure he'll figure it out. And hopefully they get a win tomorrow, man. He can take off his shirt and wave it around. I can't wait to see that. I love that type of stuff. So I love to be coached by guys like that, man. They're just fun and do their thing. So that would be awesome.
We got a minute here, Josh, before we go to break. I want to touch on this last matchup. You have, again, desperation is sort of the theme here. Texas A&M and Virginia. Each team really needs a win. How do you sort of handicap this matchup?
I know we got a short time. I love this game. Too elite. I love Buzz. I love Buzz Williams. He's an underrated coach, one of the best there is in the country. Obviously, Tony Bennett, everyone knows how great he is. This is back when Buzz was coaching at Virginia Tech, and Virginia had great matchups. This is a big-time game. It is at Virginia, and Texas A&M has the Wade Taylor young man who's a stud, one of the best guards, maybe the best players in the entire country. Big time game tomorrow night.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of great games on tap tomorrow. When we come back, panic meter. Josh is not a man that panics, but we're going to see if maybe there are a few programs that have him a little antsy. Stick around. You're watching the Field of 68 After Dark. Back after this.
Are you a college basketball junkie? Are you the kind of fan that gets frustrated that this beautiful sport has such a lack of national coverage outside of the month of March? Well, let me tell you about the Field of 68, an all-encompassing digital network of podcasts, live streams, and newsletters that cover the sport at every level on every platform. From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors, the only way to keep up with college basketball is through the Field of 68.
In the first Field of 68 tip-off, 3 of the preeminent mid-major programs in the country, 3 of the best coaches. November 30th, Liberty versus FAU. December 1st, Liberty versus Charleston. December 2nd, Charleston versus FAU.
3 up-and-coming programs come together in a very, very creative entity.
There's a reason we're called the Field of 68, right? We want to cover all of college basketball.
We are calling it the Field of 68 tip-off.
Welcome back to Field of 68 After Dark. I'm John Martin, host and holding it down tonight with Josh Pastner, former Memphis and Georgia Tech coach, with John Henson, North Carolina Tar Heel NBA veteran. If you have some questions, get them in. We're going to be answering them on last call. Josh has promised me that he will not say every team is good. He has promised me that. So if you want Josh's opinion on who is and who is not credible in college basketball, get those in the YouTube chat. We'll answer them in just a little bit over on Stadium. All right. In the meantime and between time, gentlemen, we're going to do a little thing we call panic meter. So I'm going to give you a team, and you're going to tell me on a scale of 1 to 5 on how worried you are. 1 would be not worried at all. Everything is cool. Let the cake bake. 5 is, oh my goodness, this is a disaster. What are we going to do? All right, let's start, Josh, with Arkansas. 1 to 5, how worried are you?
Well, I would say based on tomorrow's game, I think the whole thing comes down. I mean, and you're saying 5 is like you're in 5
is
mode, right?
5 is DEFCON 1, batten down the hatches, sound the alarm, brother.
I would say I would be in the middle of 3 right now, especially depending on if Draymond's not playing and depending on what happens. I would say right now, if I'm a fan base at Arkansas, I'd probably be right at 3, knowing that tomorrow's game and the next, not only tomorrow's game, Furman, and then Oklahoma, the stretch of what could happen, I'd be at 3 right now.
John?
I'm going to go 3 too. I like that number. Yeah, it could, by tomorrow night, it could go haywire over there. So we're gonna keep it at a 3. We're not gonna panic yet, but right now we'll keep it solid. We're not gonna go too crazy, but tomorrow, depending on how they look against a really good Duke team, obviously, it could change.
But now that place is going to be rocking tomorrow at Bud Walton Arena. I mean, it is. I don't know if you've played there or not, John. If you've played there, I'm not sure, but if you have, I mean, that place is loud, and it's one of the great home court advantages, and they're going to be loud tomorrow, and and obviously, John Martin, this, me being a former head coach at Memphis, I do want to say this. That was a huge win for Memphis beating Arkansas. People that know that rivalry of those two teams in that, kind of that area, how big that is for just the historical aspect of Memphis, Arkansas, when those two played in the Bahamas. Nationally, and I don't think everyone understood it, but people who in that area understood that was a big win for Memphis, and a tough loss for Arkansas.
No, absolutely, especially considering they were ranked as well. That was a big one for Penny Hardaway. But Memphis isn't on this list, right? Memphis is 5-1. They should be in the top 25. It was a travesty they were left out, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Michigan State is 500, and again, we know our default setting with Tom Izzo is that we're going to look up in March and they're going to be in the Elite Eight. How worried are you, Josh, about Michigan State, 1 to 5?
I would say 2, and the only reason for at a 2, because they're going to get it turned around. They've obviously played a tough schedule. The issue is the James Madison game that they opened up with. They lost. I still think they're trying to figure out how to play without Hauser, who was a big shooter for them last year and really stretched the floor and opened up space for him for those guards. And they're trying to figure that out. But time and time again, Coach Izzo's found a way. They're talented, Michigan State. I mean, their goals are to get to the Final Four this year. And so I think right now it's a 2. I think they're going to be fine. Obviously, if there's another loss or 2 down the road, that's a different deal. But I think right now it's at a 2. I don't think it's anything to be too concerned about.
Where you at, John?
That graphic shows that we should panic. Look at those records. But I'm going to go 3.5. Only because Izzo, he sat Hogarth. Well, he brought Hogarth off the bench today, and started Trey Holloman. And so I think they're trying to figure out what works best. And they look, I mean, it's a bad team, but we can't take those for granted, as we know in college basketball, that any given night you can be beaten. So I'm going to go 3.5. I think they'll figure it out. But if you look at that historic graphic, it's looking like it's going to be a sketchy season with the potential to make the NCAA tournament, and probably have to play Purdue in the second weekend or the second game of the first weekend.
And graphic right there.
The Big Ten has been so strong and have gotten so many teams in the last couple years into the tournament. This year, it doesn't look like they're going to get as many as they've had in the past. They've been at times getting 8, 9, 10, almost 11 teams in. I don't know, based on the non-conference play to this point, if they're going to get that many this year. It doesn't, if the tournament was today, it wouldn't be that. So, and that what happens is, you both know this, if you start beating each other up in conference play, it's all what you do in non-conference for those net quad 1 and quad 2 ranking wins. And so the Big Ten's got some opportunities left. And as you mentioned, John Henson, that's a big thing for Michigan State. They need to the Big Ten needs to keep winning because Purdue has done great in that. They need to have some other teams get some big wins for the Big Ten to done what they've done the last few years and trying to have as many teams as they've had, the most of any conference in the tournament.
All right, last team here on the Panic Meter segment before we get to last call over on Stadium is Creighton. Come in once again as a top 10 team, bring most everybody back, and they got their doors blown off by Colorado State. Did not have a starter in Mason Miller, but I don't think that's any excuse to get beat quite like that. John, where are you on your Panic Meter on Creighton 1 to 5?
I'm gonna go 2, man. The Colorado State's a good team. They beat Boston College, so they're not a slouch. They got a vote in the AP poll previous to. Now they're ranked. Obviously, they're a top 50 Ken Pond team. So, you take that name off that jersey, right? And maybe Creighton plays different, right? I think that they walked in that game seeing the Colorado State on the jersey and Colorado gave it to them. But I wouldn't say I want to panic. Colorado State's a good team. They will be there at the end. They might upset somebody next, in the tournament or when they get there, if they do get there, which I think they will. So I'm gonna go 1, man. I'm not worried about that. They lost to a team that can beat them. One is not concerned, right? One is least.
Yeah, I'd be not worried, right? Yeah,
I'm not
least.
Worried,
yep. Josh, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with with John 100% on it. I mean, Colorado State's a really good team. The way they play offense is hard to guard, and it was just one of those nights where Colorado State was on fire. Creighton was not. Creighton's got a lot of offensive weapons. They've got a lot of talent, and again, they're 5-1. I mean, that was just they're playing against a good team. It was a tough night. So, they got a good schedule coming up now. They got Oklahoma State. They got Nebraska. Those are, their next 2 games. So those are 2 big games against Power 5 opponents. But I would agree with John that I'd be at a 1 right now with Creighton.
I'm gonna add one on the fly here before we get to last call. We have a few minutes because it looks to me like it looks to me like Clemson is going to knock off Alabama, which would only send Alabama out of the top 25. They'd be 5-2. So with Alabama at 5-2, again, if this result holds, John, where are you with the Crimson Tide? Are you starting to panic about them at all?
I don't know yet. I don't think we should panic because how good is Clemson? I mean, they come into Alabama. I'm looking at the game right now, 81-76.
Yeah.
P.J. Hall right now has 17-9. He's looking like the guy over there. I don't think there's much to panic. We'll go 2. Clemson's clearly a good team, and Alabama's got some work to do. So I don't think we should take too much stock in this game because Alabama was up by 6 or 7. I turn around, now it's flipped. So I didn't get to watch the game to see what happened, but they had control of the game for the most part towards the end.
Real quick, Josh, we got to do our toast of the night here. Give me 30 seconds on your panic meter here with Alabama.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big time to panic. Probably I would say 1.5, 2 at the most. Look, I think there's 4 teams that are just above everybody else, and then there's just everybody else. And that, Arizona and Purdue are the 2 best teams in the country. I think Kansas and Marquette are right underneath them. After that, I think there's a lot of just parity and a lot of really good teams. So I don't think there's a big time to panic right now at all in Alabama, assuming Clemson holds on.
So college basketball is the giant Spider-Man meme. Everybody's just looking at each other. Is that what we're saying?
Exactly.
It's a lot of parity. Hey,
No
John
question.
Martin, everybody's good. Everybody's good, John Martin.
You told me you would not do this, all right? You told me you're a new person now, okay? You can finally be honest and unfiltered. And here you go. Never change. All right, toast the night before we get to last call. I'll kick it off. McNeese State, Will Wade, free Will Wade, goes on the road against UAB and it absolutely blows their doors off, 81-60. So I'm going to give a toast. I got the Diet Coke going to Will Wade and McNeese State. It's not an easy job. They got the job done tonight against UAB.
I'll go Clemson, assuming they hold on to their win. Brad Brunell, Clemson, toast to Brad Brunell, winningest coach in Clemson history, big-time coach, done a heck of a job. They're going to be 6-0, toast to Brad Brunell and the Clemson Tigers.
All right, Johnny.
I'm going Michi. I'm going Michi Johnson with the almost a 30 ball and winning it. I mean, not a great Notre Dame team, but he looked really good tonight. It actually made a South Carolina Notre Dame game fun to watch. So cheers.
All right, we're going to move on to last call for Josh Pastner. For John Henson, I'm John Martin. You've been watching the Field of 68 After Dark. Back tomorrow.